Hey, I'm wearing another one of my new shirts. I really like this design. It's one of the chimpanzees. I don't know if you can make it out. It's pretty low resolution or whatever. High contrast, but it's supposed to be a chimp wearing a spacesuit. Now, Space Monkey is one of the creepiest trolls I've ever encountered on YouTube. Despite that, I still like this shirt. 19 of 74 is using a chimp in a spacesuit icon on his Twitter account, which I think looks pretty cool. It's not this exact same one. So anyway, I've been wearing these different t-shirts. I don't know whether any of you care, but I found a really good deal. I mean, I'm still poor as church mouse. Excuse the is that the way the cliche goes? As poor as a church mouse? Anyway, this is bothering me. My hair's sticking up right here. I'm so vain. I heard once at junior college, now they call it community college, I went to a lecture where there was the psychology professor was talking about, he brought his wife in, who was a psychic. And she said a couple things about me that it was kind of interesting. She said that I spent a lot of time in my garage tinkering, which was pretty dead on. I mean, back then. And another thing she said is that Geminis are vain. And I'll cop to that, even though I have no reason to be vain. Anyway, where was I? The usual. Usual. I start talking, I totally lose my train of thought. I found these shirts on the internet, and it's a pretty good deal. They're $6 a piece, and they have some pretty good designs. And I mean, I really like the designs, like the TARDIS that I had on, and anyway. The only drawback is the shirts. I mean, they're amazingly cheap. The shirts are made in Mexico. And when I first got them, I thought, oh no, I got ripped off. But actually, I'm pretty happy with the fit. Overall, for $6, it's great. And the shirt collar's not all stretched out like all my other old t-shirts. It's because trying to pull them over my enormous head. All right, enough of that nonsense. Time to don the fez. Oh, you see I got a new haircut too. Styling, eh? Greetings, fellow citizens. This is Citizen Kong, and welcome to another Fez Night. Tonight's Fez Night shall be called All You Need Is Fez. Neil Armstrong died, which made me think. 19 of 74 saw that I twittered some comment. Was it, that the truth about the moon landing will go with Neil Armstrong to his grave or something like that. And I don't know whether I've ever mentioned the moon landing conspiracy on a Fez night, but 19 of 74, hope I'm getting your name right, did mention that. Speaking of trolls, I kind of like that Sean Bean, which is a play on the actor Sean Bean, which came up when Bobo McGraw commented on the movie that I had watched. I think it was called The Black Plague or something like that. And mentioned the actor's name, which I wasn't all that familiar with. His face is familiar. I've seen him in a lot of good movies. And then, boom, up popped this troll channel, Sawn Bean. Like, sawn is in the past tense for saw. Kind of makes sense in a way, sawn bean. It means like, and a beam could be a piece of wood that's been sawn. Anyway, he's kind of amusing. I like that old, like, that, I don't know whether it's London or what, that sort of, go out for some, what was it? A pie and some chips and maybe have a shag later. Since Austin Powers, most Americans know what shag means. I like the expression a bit of rumpy pumpy. I ever tell you once I went to the woman that should not be mentioned went to a Toastmasters meeting and invited me along. And one of the things that you learn, and they have a way, they actually keep track of it, is when you're doing public speaking, that you don't say or ah or things like that. Try to avoid that. I got up there and did a little ad-lib speech and actually kind of enjoyed it, but it's a club for nerds. But I did enjoy it. I truly am a nerd. I wear these glasses and I ride a scooter. And it was funny when Maria suggested I ride a Harley instead. That's just not me. Sure, I could ride a Harley. I mean, I could drive the thing. I'm sure I could. It's just not whether I'd want to spend the money on one and whether I feel that's part of my image. You know, nerd chic is actually, I mean, it's been around for probably almost 20 years. And it's still going strong. Especially now that we enter the age of technology, the information age, and where we wouldn't have any of that if it wasn't for nerds or geeks. See, I said It's too hard for me to avoid doing that on Fez Night. And look, what have I've killed 7 minutes and hardly said anything. So the moon landing conspiracy. See, I remembered. I went all the way around and came back to this. About Neil Armstrong passing away. I think I remember reading in an interview that he would absolutely get pissed off. Was that Neil Armstrong or was it Buzz Aldrin? And said, I'm not going to address that anymore. You know? I'm not even going to waste my time with it. I do believe that we landed on the moon. I don't think a conspiracy that big could be kept under wraps for this long. You know, somebody, somewhere, if it was actual, like it all took place on a soundstage, unless the CIA was killing anybody that they thought was going to leak the truth. Even then, I don't think it worked. The CIA is not that good. Frankie the Mountain did make a comment about how the original videotape of the moon landing was taped over, which would, you know, it's the highest resolution video of the landing. And that does look kind of scandalous. You know, why would they tape over something that important? But back then, that was common practice. I'm not to say for moon landings or anything like that. I mean, that was a pretty rare occasion. And you would think somebody would say, don't tape over this. But in the early days of television, those tapes were really expensive. And it was routine to tape over them. Many, many great shows, programs, history, television history has been taped over. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but we do not have a complete Magical Mystery Tour video, the television show, the television special, I guess you'd call it, I don't know what they call it over there, that the Beatles made, Magical Mystery Tour. There is not a complete copy because, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the original tape was taped over. They should have put it on film. Getting back to the moon landing, though, there's some amazing high-resolution stills on film that were taken back, that were shot on the moon, and then, you know, if you believe that we went to the moon, brought back by the astronauts. And I think one of the two things with a pretty good feather in their cap. I used to be avid photographer the old days. But I'm actually pretty impressed with digital photography now. Yes, I think I've pretty much. I doubt if I'll ever use film again unless I get when I'm old and feeble. And people go, "Do you know how to use?" Hey, the young whippersnapper says, "Do you know how to do the film thing and print your own pictures?" I go, "Yeah, boy, back in the day I did it. Just give me some chemicals and an enlarger, and I can do it." Maybe I'll do that if there's money in it. Of course, I've given away all my stuff. When I thought I'd have to vacate the premises, I just started jettisoning things, and there was really no way to sell my enlarger and my darkroom equipment, so I gave it away. As I was saying, it was a feather in their cap for Nikon. I believe Nikon, was that the official camera that they brought up, at least a small one? I'm pretty sure they used a Hasselblad, a large format camera while they're on the moon, and those are pretty amazing. Of course, the conspiracy theorists will say something about that they can't see the stars or, in the image and all that. If you knew anything about photography, the surface of the moon would be extremely bright, much brighter than those stars in the sky. And so when you adjust the exposure to photograph the astronauts whose suits were white, and the lunar surface is a very light color, that with that intense sunlight, it would definitely, the exposure would not pick up on those relatively faint stars. And I don't know all of the things that they look at, those still photographs, to try to demonstrate that it's that they're fake. Enough said on that. What else is going on? Yeah, I'm pretty excited about Twitter for some reason. I guess because I've said if they took away the damn comments on YouTube on my channel, which is what gave the people would visit my channel just to read the comments, and they've ruined it. And Twitter is almost exclusively comments. But the neat thing about Twitter, it gives you the illusion that you are rubbing elbows with celebrities. My favorite celebrities are Elvira, who posts really regularly, and Rob Schneider. And Conan O'Brien, too. I guess he's the first. They actually promote his channel because it's so big. Monk made the comment. He said, "He doesn't follow anybody, you lazy bum." Rob Schneider. Did I mention him? Rob Schneider. I'm really impressed what an intelligent person he is. Mainly, I'm calling him intelligent because he seems to hold a lot of the same views that I hold. And I get a kick out of the guy because, if I'm not mistaken, he's half Anglo or just white and half Filipino. Is that true, Rob Schneider? He's a hybrid like myself. And he married a Mexican. Good for you, Rob Schneider. Mexican woman, Mexican female. I was looking through one of my old cell phones, and I found Kool-Aid Girl's phone number. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll give her a call because we lost touch. What happened is when I lost my job, I just got so depressed I withdrew from everybody. And the couple people that I did talk to regularly, actually there's probably 3 or 4 people that I talked to regularly. One turned into a friggin' raging bitch, so I don't want to talk to her anymore. She did help me out by sending me money at one point, and I really, really appreciated it. But then we started arguing on YouTube, and one of the things that really, really bothered me was when she sent me the money, she said there's no strings attached. I would have tried to endeavor to pay her back or send her something to somehow compensate. And while we were fighting in the channels and the comments, she brought that up, that I was some sort of ingrate. I was surprised that she would make that public. I'm not an ingrate. I was grateful for the help. But I am surprised at how mean, how controlling you became. Which for me is normal. My dealings with females, that's pretty much par for the course. Maybe that's why I liked you so much. Until you went too far. What was I going to say? Anyway, a woman answered the phone. I called the number, and it was a female. And I thought, and I said, of course I didn't call her Kool-Aid Girl. Kool-Aid Girl? No, it wasn't her. And she said, she hasn't had that number for 4 years. 4 years have gone by. Actually, I think I kind of did the math in my head. I think it was more like 3.5. God, it's true, man. When you get old, time just goes by like that. You know, I saw a thing this morning that I don't know, how large the band Pussy Riot is. I mean, as far as I know, there's just 3 women. And, officially, that their Pussy Riot is 3 women. And, of course, Pussy Riot is referring to cats getting really upset. A group of cats getting really upset. It said that 2 of them left the country to avoid being locked up, apparently. It makes you feel really bad for the one that was left behind. You better get out of the country, girl. Be like that guy from WikiLeaks, man. It's being, what was he? He sought political asylum in Colombia. I think he's a cool dude. I feel bad that the UK and the United States is trying to rake him over the coals. But I think he performed a good function. It's funny that Show Damages, which I guess is winding up the last season, had a similar plot story with a character that's modeled after the WikiLeaks guy. But on the Show Damages, you can't tell whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. It's kind of neat. I think her name's Jenna Elfman, the character. She plays a whistleblower that had an affair while she was doing the whistleblowing with the guy, the head of WikiLeaks. I can't remember the name. Not the actual guy, but the character based on the WikiLeaks website. And then she's about to commit suicide. She changes her. She's about to swallow. What happened is that somehow all this information about her got out. How basically she was the company slut, besides being a whistleblower. And I use this term slut just as a shortcut to say that she slept around a lot. Thank God for women that sleep around a lot. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have never got laid. No. Actually, I say the woman that shall not be mentioned was actually very, very chaste. And I was very, very lucky to have her. I don't know, I'm starting to miss her, but I have to remind myself how dysfunctional our relationship was. It was terribly dysfunctional. But you know how, with me, absence makes the heart grow fonder. It does apply to me. Unfortunately for my former girlfriends, it is out of sight, out of mind. Why am I laughing at that? I want to say hello to Sammy. Oh, well, first of all, I know these two don't get along, and once again, you're caught in between things. I guess there's a lot of bad blood. Or is there? I don't know. It's just stuff I hear. But I want to say hello to Kool-Aid Girl. Feel free. Just ask, and I'll send you my number if you lost it, and we can still have conversations. I know I ran into you once on Skype, and you really. There's like people were starting to like a couple of the people. Skype, I don't really like going in those group chats on Skype because those people are mean. Kool-Aid Girl was like, leave him alone. Thanks, CAG. Is that what she mostly goes by now, CAG? I just like the sound of Kool-Aid Girl. It was much better. Then it was shortened to CAG. And Sammy. I was going to say hello to Sammy. And Sammy and I talked once on Skype. And it was a one-on-one talk on Skype. I really am not wild about Skype because when I talk on the phone, which essentially Skype to me is, unless you're doing a video chat, is like a phone, and I don't like being tethered to anything. I mean, back in the day when phones were still wired to the wall, I liked having a really, really long cord so I could walk around a lot. And then, you know, the cordless phone came along. That was great. And then, of course, now I mostly do all the talking on my cell phone. I'll probably get brain cancer or something from that. So that's one of the drawbacks for me with Skype. I don't like being tethered to the computer. Even though I have a laptop now, it's still like I'm walking around carrying my laptop. So that's why I mostly avoid Skype. But I think they have an application. They have an app for that now. So maybe that can change. So maybe I'll be talking to more friends on Skype in the near future. Anyway, Sammy came by my Facebook page and said hello. Yes, and I miss you too, Sammy. And basically, what is it? What are we missing? We're missing some sort of good old days where we were on YouTube a lot and talking a lot and things like that. Yeah, I'm missing that. But now I've got Twitter. And I'm spending more time on Facebook. But Facebook is weird. I just don't like Facebook. The whole like reminding you that it's somebody's birthday, and I let that thing fall through the cracks a lot, and I don't know whether I know this person well enough to go wish him a happy birthday or not. To me, wishing somebody a happy birthday is sort of intimate. To me, when somebody remembers my birthday, I'm like, oh wow, you remembered my birthday. I'm gonna cry. No. Yeah, birthdays for me are weird, especially as I'm getting old. I know I keep talking about that. They say that's one of the signs of depression is when you're feeling old. Feeling that you look old and you're just feeling old. Am I getting depressed again? I don't know. I live in my head a lot. You know, and I started Fez Night as a I've told this story many, many times. The woman that shot me mentioned, I would just talk and talk and talk, especially George Bush was in office, and I would talk a lot about that. She says, you should write a blog. Because basically she was getting sick of me talking to her about it. I also tell this story, is that when she needed me to help her go to sleep, she'd say, talk about George Bush. And I would start talking and it would put her to sleep. And I've heard many people say that. Yeah, Fez Night, cure for insomnia. Don't watch the video, just listen to the sound, and after a while you'll just go to sleep. Anyway, and that's why I'm too lazy to actually type out real blogs. Even though I've had people tell me that I'm a good writer, but for me, writing is hard work. It's like pulling teeth. And rarely have most writers that I admire all express that opinion. They say that writing isn't easy. And you don't choose writing, it chooses you. And they almost make it sound like, they're driven. I wish I was driven like that. I felt I was driven like that a little bit more when I was younger. That was before computers. And I had notebooks and I would jot down things. And I had several short stories started. Okay, I'll pitch you this idea. Okay, this was a short story that I was starting to write. Maybe it could be turned into a treatment for a film. If any of you steal this, I'll have a record on YouTube. Is that I thought of it first, and I'll sue your ass. But please steal the idea and make a lot of money. Then I can sue you. Okay. So the title of this short story was Playpen, and the notion is that in the future they will, and it's a play on words. Pen as in penitentiary, playpen. That in the future they will come up with the experts, the so-called intellectual elite, the ones that regular, like that sheriff in Arizona, people that are trying to do prison reform, and back in the day, it was like they threw you in a cell and gave you bread and water till you rotted, and just said that's what you deserve. And the courts, innocent people got locked up all the time, and then somehow there was these people that thought with their head and felt some compassion and thought, well, first of all, we need to be careful about locking up innocent people. And the other thing is that prison should be for reform, you know, help these people so when their sentence is up that they won't go back to a life of crime. So while they're in prison, they should be treated humanely. In fact, our Constitution says cruel or unusual punishment, which is funny how maybe because the death penalty back then was not unusual, but it certainly is cruel. So the notion is with my story is that a new cycle of prison reform comes up, and the technology is there. And so in the future, I came across this somewhere or on my own, but people that are criminals, there's a lot of like this tough guy image. And the best way to punish them is to take away their dignity and their manhood. And the idea is that if you misbehave, we're going to treat you like a child. And instead of prison guards, there's these giant, cute robots that basically, in my mind, look a little bit like Bob's Big Boy, but they're animated. And when a prisoner is misbehaving, the large animated Bob's Big Boy will give that person a hug and say, there. And then for the extremely violent or person that will not reform, will not behave themselves, they're put in diapers, given baby food, and kept in like a cage, but it looks like a giant playpen. And they're not given solitary confinement. They can see the other people, milling around, enjoying more freedom, The prisoners with better behavior are given short pants. Did I ever tell you how I hate shorts? If I can, I will not wear shorts unless it's completely unavoidable. The only time I wear shorts is when I'm camping, which I haven't went camping in years. When it's really, really hot and it's uncomfortable, I will wear shorts when I'm camping. But I try to avoid it. I just don't like shorts. And it has to do with my childhood. I went camping, and it's funny though, I will wear them when I'm camping, but the time I decided I hated shorts was we went on a trip, and we stayed by this lake, and I think it was called Bottomless Lake. I think it was the name of the lake. Must have been somewhere in New Mexico. And on the trip, we went to Carlsbad Caverns. I was just a little kid. It was before I started school. I must have been 4 or 5 years old. And so we were by this lake, and I did not want to wear shorts, but my mother insisted I had to wear shorts. And during that stay at the lake, my legs were completely covered in mosquito bites. I mean, I had mosquito bites on top of mosquito bites. And I remember being in really absolute misery and very angry with my mother for not letting me wear long pants. In my mind, grown men do not wear short pants, And back in the day, that was the whole thing, is like you were entering some sort of like grown-up phase when you were allowed to wear long pants. So what I was going to say is the more well-behaved were allowed to wear shorts, and they didn't have to cruise around in diapers, and even more the people that were so like practically rehabilitated were allowed to wear long pants, and that means that they're pretty much ready to finish their sentence and be let out on good behavior. And I think psychologically is that manhood, the whole like tough guy, tattoos, works out. There's this whole thing is like, I'm a man, in this sort of like primitive way. And I think that you could psychologically adjust somebody. We could also add medication to the whole thing, but I think the short story would be about a penitentiary that uses giant robots on the incarcerated. And they're never hurt, they're never spanked, they're just given hugs until they calm down. And the name of the short story was Playpen. I thought it was one of my better ideas. seemed fairly original. I haven't seen that before. I got part of the idea is I got it from, and there's no such thing as a truly original idea, but the idea of robot police officers was used in the film early George Lucas, THX 1138. And these very tall robots wearing helmets, dressed like they were police officers, would very calmly pursue the protagonist. The other interesting thing is they kept a tally of how much it was costing them trying to catch this guy. And after a while, the costs went so that he's being chased up this ladder, and the whole society lives underground. And it's kind of a cool movie. I really liked it, except it's really excruciatingly boring. But it has some real neat ideas in there. I've always loved movies about trying to envision what the future is. I think good science fiction does that. Speaking of which, I saw this thing that they're doing a reboot, and it's one of these guys, Mark Tone, that I met on Twitter. He lives in Scotland, and he does drawings, and he posts drawings on Twitter of Daleks and Cybermen, which I've seen so far, and they're pretty cool. And he posted a link to a web-produced television show, which is basically the original Star Trek, and the sets, they show like a little trailer of it, and I guess the idea is they do the very last episode of Star Trek that was ever done, and they reenact it. It's the same script, and everything. The acting isn't as good as the original, but the uniforms and the sets are like pretty dead on, really pretty dead on, and even the style of photography, the way the colors and the lighting is, that's very dead on. Somebody's really doing some good work with that. And then they're going to do new shows and carry on. It's as if Star Trek was not canceled, because if I'm not mistaken, it was only on for 2 seasons. And it's funny once again how the networks are so wrong, how good programs all the time get canceled. If only they were given a chance. Jerry Seinfeld, the ratings were really low. Until, and somebody decided, well, I don't care. We're just going to pump more money into it. So what they're going to do is, continue making Star Trek episodes. They're going to be available on the web. And it looks really good, except the acting is really bad. And the actors look nothing like, well, a couple of them are kind of close. Look nothing like the original actors, especially Spock. I don't know why they picked that guy. But it's kind of cool. But I like stories about the future. And that's my idea, Playpen. The future of incarceration and rehabilitation. I also borrowed a little bit from that sheriff or marshal or whoever he is in Arapahoe, Arizona. Do I have that right? The guy that made his inmates wear pink underwear. And yeah, I hate that guy, but that's kind of an interesting idea, to take away their dignity. But he's such a hard ass. I think they should have used it as just a form of punishment, and the guys who were well behaved could wear. What you're in jail? What they don't give you tidy whities, but you're like, yeah, for first-hand experience. They're all like this one color, this weird drab green. A lot like this shirt, actually. I don't know what it's like in every jail. Yeah, sometimes I just share too much on Fez Night, just too much. Yeah, back when I was younger, and I know I've talked about, I've had mental issues. Yeah, I got thrown in jail a couple times, and if I was in my right mind, that wouldn't have happened. But I survived it. I survived it intact. I did not get jumped. I did not get raped. And I've said many times before, if you're not like a big tough guy, they tend to stay away from crazy people. They do. There is a sort of a code, like in not that I was ever in real prison, but I was thrown into a holding cell on more than one occasion. And some of the early times are just I was just up to mischief, and I wasn't insane or anything. But a couple of times, the more severe times I was thrown in jail is because I was off my noggin, and but they leave you alone if you're obviously not right. And you know, and I'll say, as far as rehabilitation in jail and all that, I firmly believe, and M. Scott Peck said this in his book, The Road Less Traveled, or was it People of the Lie? It is true that the essence of evil is lies, to lie. You know, they say money, the love of money is the root of all evil, but there's also the basis of all lies, all sins basically spring forth from lying. And M. Scott Peck said that the truly evil are not in prisons. The truly evil. The ones that, and it goes into this whole conspiracy, he didn't talk about conspiracy theory, but there's the people behind the scenes that wreak true evil. They're powerful men. And they're never going to see the inside of a cell because they're so evil that they're smart. They're so evil that they keep their head down low. People like Charles and Manson, you might call them evil, but they're insane too. And you know, yeah, there's something that's not right in their head. But the truly evil know exactly what they're doing. And in the short time I was really incarcerated, where I just wasn't in a holding cell, and I was only in there for like a week or so. And you know, nobody was going to bail me out, and so I just did my time. And there's some pretty nice guys in there, actually. Nice guys that were going to help me out, like loan me their shampoo, you know, because I didn't have nothing. You know, when you're in jail and you're there, you know, somebody on the outside will put money in your account, and you can buy like a little bottle of baby shampoo, you know, maybe some candy bars, things like that while you're in. Otherwise, you just get what they give you, which is almost squat, you know. I think they give you some regular like motel bar soap, and you know, and a blanket and some clothes and some food, which is pretty bad, but that's about it, you know. All the extras are from people kind enough to put on the outside, putting money in your account or posting your bail. Looking back at it, though, I'm glad I can proudly say that I survived, and I didn't have to rely on mommy and daddy or anybody helping me out. I made it through on my own. And what I kept telling myself, this will make great material for being a writer. Because when I was younger, one of the things I thought is like, I'm too young to write because I don't have any life experience yet. And now that I have some life experience, the urge to write is not as strong as it used to be. But I think I should develop that idea, Playpen. The only thing is like, I haven't come up with a solid ending, you know. And I don't want to do something cliche like, there's an escape. Maybe I should do the escape. I don't know. Anyway, enough of that. I really babbled and said almost nothing of any value during this Fez night. But I have things I need to do. I haven't had lunch yet. I'm drinking coffee. Maybe that's, you know, when I get wired and on caffeine and I haven't had anything to eat, yeah, I do tend to babble. All right, everybody. I'm sure there's things later that I thought, oh, I should have mentioned that. Shout out to that person. Say, yeah. Oh, one more thing that's kind of interesting. And this is what I've been feeling. And I know there's way more important stuff, like me finding ways to make actual money. But there's a thing, Boon Dang Bear twice sent me some requests to look into this app or another social networking sort of thing. And it's called Clout, spelled K-L-O-U-T. And I've heard about this several months ago. I listened to podcasts from Slate. And great internet magazine. Wonderful articles. Slate. And I listened to the Culture Gabfest and the Political Gabfest. Very informative. when I first started listening to podcasts, I was trying to listen to all different kinds because they're free, and you're like, oh, they're free. I want to grab a bunch, but I just didn't have the time to listen to all of them, and then I just weaned it down. I just narrowed it down to two. Lexicon Valley, though, I've listened to once. I might go. Oh, and Stuff You Should Know is really good too. That's really educational. I really recommend Stuff You Should Know on the one on populating the planet. Overpopulation. God, that one's so informative, but really scary. And it makes me so angry that friggin' libertarians and conservatives need to listen to that podcast, and they need to open their minds to science. Okay, that got me riled up, and it was a really good subject of a topic of conversation. It was all over the place. What was that guy's name? Todd Aiken? Todd Aiken, who said that, and he believes this, when politicians do gaffes, they're actually saying what they really believe. Did I talk about this last Fez? The whole idea that legitimate rape, a woman that is legitimately raped, his words, legitimate rape, their body shuts down and they won't get pregnant. And he knew this because a doctor told him. A quack. That's where conservatives get all their information from, quack scientists. They're also called what? Somebody coined a term. Oh, it's combining science and prostitution. I can't remember what it is. But anyway, quack scientists and quack doctors that espouse these crazy ideas that go against mainstream science. Every now and then, okay, sometimes there's this lone guy out there shouting in the wilderness, and later it turns out he was right. But I haven't seen any examples of that in the 20th or the 21st century. If you do, because when Albert Einstein came out with this theory of relativity, it wasn't like he was this lone wolf. There were other people going, oh yeah, this makes sense. Any breakthroughs, the vaccines, polio vaccine, and the discovery of penicillin. It wasn't a bunch of the mainstream going, oh, that's crackpot science, Maybe before, maybe Madame Curie was sort of roughing, stirring things up with new ideas. Or who was the guy before that? The guy that invented the first vaccination. Louis Pasteur, because, but now I think there's enough information, there's enough people out there, there's enough established theories, there's strong theories that will, like the theory of relativity, that's pretty much accepted. It doesn't have to be absolute proof. It's not quite a law yet. They don't call it the law of relativity. They don't call it the law of evolution. But mainstream science pretty much accepts those things, and that's how they build on it for more research. They build on a theory, the Big Bang theory, and until they find enough evidence that it's almost impossible to find enough evidence to make these things into a law, but there's very, very little evidence, or zero, that discounts these theories. I got in a big argument with Monk over this. And Monk, if you just disagree with me, make your own damn video. It was a big, heated debate. I was like, let's change the subject. He said I got really mad. I got passionate because I felt like I'm beating my head up against a brick wall. And that's where modern philosophy has moved. They've actually gone away from trying to philosophize the existence of God or the meaning of life or things like that. Now, modern philosophy is arguing over the definition of a word or words. So that guy saying that women, an example of how the conservative right, and I throw a lot of libertarians in that group, and the Ayn Randians. Paul Ryan keeps referencing Ayn Rand, but Ayn Rand was an atheist, and then he calls himself a Catholic. And then one of his former priests or fathers or pastors said he's a little worried about wrapping himself in Catholicism because these budget cuts and taking money away from the social net, our safety net, goes against Catholic ideas. Of course, now his new priest says, no, he's cool. He falls right in Catholicism. And there you go. There's no like strict definition. Everybody interprets things differently, and they think they have the truth, And I think the open-minded people will have some doubt. Will still try to say, well, I'm not sure, I'm not 100%, but I think this is the way it goes, And those are the people I trust, the people that show a little bit of doubt. It's people that are like they go, I know I'm right, and there's just no way around it. Those are the people I'm dubious about those people, And that's why you see with liberals, there's a lot of hand-wringing, hemming, and hawing. And conservatives take advantage of that. But conservatives are really the idiots because they're cocksure about these things. Cocksure, that's not like a word we use every day, but I found it in an old quote. And so ideas that like a woman, a legitimate rape will shut the body down, or that man is not influencing climate change. And they'll make statements like man is like the planet's too big for man to influence the environment. Hell, we're polluting the planet. We are influencing our environment. When we built the first fire to warm our cave, we were influencing the environment. And what I've said with Ayn Rand, and I looked all over and I couldn't find this quote, but Kurt Vonnegut, I remember reading this, Kurt Vonnegut said of Ayn Rand, is that Randian objectivism is not kind to children and old people. And I read Atlas Shrugged, and there was no if you can run this copper mine 24/7, do it. Who cares about what happens downstream when you're dumping all the shit in the stream? Is that you're producing, and that's the god of Ayn Rand, is to produce. But our planet is a closed system. It's finite. You cannot keep producing forever. The only alternative is to ration and try to get a control over things, or spread out. Like Europe, became so there wasn't room and people needed to leave and they found the New World and we started exploiting this area. And conservatives just think that and the Ayn Randians, and it's pronounced Ayn Rand, it's just very upsetting. We got this Paul Rand calling himself, that he was influenced by Ayn Rand, that Ayn Rand was an atheist. I think he's backing off that because a lot of people, Alan Greenspan was an Ayn Rand disciple. I just like the whole Ayn Rand thing, really. I read Atlas Shrugged and I saw a documentary about Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand is a person. She slept around a lot. She cheated on her husband. She would take these younger men in her circle and bed them. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But Paul Ryan, who sees himself as an upright person and all that, he's, oh yeah, I'm a follower of Ayn Rand. Do you even know anything about her? Okay, I say this a lot of the times. The artist, the writer, I try not to let their personal life influence, things. But Paul Ryan is not an intellectual, that thinks like that. He's a conservative. And that's the first thing conservatives will do. They'll do personal attacks. That's why in their mind, Bill Clinton was a terrible president, because he slept, he effed around. He cheated on his wife. I try to compartmentalize. I don't think that made him a bad president. You just look at his record as a president. Except two things that really anger me about Bill Clinton is that he helped push NAFTA through, and he allowed the monopolization of the media. Clear Channel is the one that comes to mind. It's the worst. And before I used to talk about this a lot, and I got in a big argument with that guy Paleocrat, who has since then gone even more off the deep end. But I coined this phrase. And as far as I know, I'm the one who came up with it. The truth is not a commodity. And that's when we turned media into a complete money machine. It used to be the news didn't need to make money. You know, they would try to make their money elsewhere. The news was like this thing that it was not profit oriented. I mean, back in the days of Edward R. Murrow and Walter Cronkite and my personal favorites, Chet Huntley and David Brinkley. You know, I love David Brinkley. Back then, it wasn't about the ratings for those news programs, because that was like, they were ready for that to be, what do they call that? When you just have something that's like a money pit, you just throw money in it, not expecting anything, because it was a service. And it was also prestige to have a good news organization. That's no longer the case. And it's changed everything. It's changed about what moves to the top of the media, like stories about Britney Spears. And every time I would go up against in the idea of the fairness doctrine, oh, the people on the right, they hate that stuff. They hate it because everything to them is profit driven. They love money. And the love of money. It's not money is the root of all evil. Money itself is not evil. It's the love of money. The love of money is the root of all evil. But even more so, basically the groundwork for actually lying is the root. The lie is the root of all evil. Satan is referred to as the prince of lies. And you could think of Satan as a metaphorical thing, that it's not an actual thing. But think of it as a metaphor. You know, the antagonist, the one who wants to see human beings fail. They're not rooting for us. You know? Oh, and I'm watching the show Supernatural, okay? And I gave the show a chance a long time ago, and it just didn't appeal to me. You know, and I ran out of things to watch, and Netflix, for Netflix streaming, has like, there must be like 5 or 6 seasons of Supernatural. So I started watching it, and gradually I got hooked. I still don't find the main characters very endearing, but it's interesting. It is. After a while, I've got interested. And you know how I have a fondness for shows about werewolves and vampires and things like that. In this case, there's demons and all that. The funny thing is, though, the main character, one of the main characters, one of the brothers, there's all these demons and everything, okay? There's demons and you know, and people getting possessed by demons, and you know, there's even like a werewolf, and they encounter vampires and all these other, you know, supernatural things. And yet, he doesn't believe that there's a devil. He doesn't believe that there's a heaven or hell, and he doesn't believe that there's a God. And later on in the show, he actually gets sent to hell. He makes the deal with the demon and gets sent to hell, but he still doesn't believe that there's a God, okay? And I mean, this is in the context of the show, okay? And you don't have to believe whether there's a heaven and a hell or anything. Just suspend your belief and live in the world, you know, that Supernatural creates. And it really doesn't make sense because you know, it's the yin and the yang. You know, you can't have one without the other as far as the story goes. But as the show progressed, you know, an angel shows up. And he doesn't believe in angels because, no, they call themselves hunters because they go after these bad, and they save people's lives and all that. Why am I talking about this show? I don't know. It's on my mind lately. Hey, we're almost going for a full hour-long Fez Night, and I didn't mean it to be. That's what you get when I'm on an empty stomach and I'm caffeinated. All right, I better wrap this up. Okay. You just suffer. Anybody that sits the entire thing of this, oh man, I should send you money. I don't have any money to send you, but I should. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Cheers.